So our next speaker is world-renowned author Mary Wood. It's my pleasure to introduce Mary.
Hi, everybody. I don't have any slides or anything, so you just got me for the next 20 minutes. Anyway, I decided to focus on forgiveness because at the time that I was working through a bunch of other stuff, I never really thought that forgiveness was important. And then I read Jerry Jampolsky's book, Forgiveness, the Greatest Healer of All. And I just realized that, yeah, this is something that I want to look at and I want to change in my life. Because forgiveness can end the suffering that we cause ourselves and others through our judgments. How many judgments do we have? How many times do we go into good or bad, right or wrong, should or shouldn't? I don't know about you, but I've still got a lot of shoulds in my life. They shouldn't anyway. And I'm realizing that we judge others, ourselves, and the experience that we're having just about 99% of the time. And we do this unconsciously. We're not conscious of it because it's been with us for so long. So I would just ask you, as I may be sharing this, if there's any ideas that are coming up. And here was the shocker that was really important for me. It really doesn't have anything to do with the other person when I'm getting mad and angry at them, but it's the space that I am in and not where they are. Because very often we don't want to look at our own stuff and we'd rather focus on what somebody else should be doing rather than look at why we're feeling this way. Here's something else. Usually what I judge someone else for is really what I'm judging myself for. So many times I want to blame you for what's going on in my life rather than saying, I guess it's me. And when I don't forgive someone or something, then this keeps me attached to that incident. It keeps me attached to the people and to the experience that have happened in the past. So how much of our time is spent on repeating the past rather than staying in the present moment? They shouldn't have done that to me. Maybe that was 10 years ago when I was in Edmonton. That's in Canada, for the NSA, for the CSA conference. I was in an elevator and I was going up to my room and a couple come into the elevator and I was just having, conversation with them and I was stuttering. And anyway, then the woman started to copy me in the stuttering. And I can still remember that. Many, many moons ago. So if and when we can look at forgiveness, forgiveness stops the inner battles that we have with ourselves. Okay? It allows us to stop recycling the anger and the blame. It allows us to stop repeating those same old stories. I call them SOS, same old stories. It can also stand for something else that I probably shouldn't say, but I'll say it. Same old shit that we've been recycling over and over again. Because very often we spend 95% of the day thinking about and having the same thoughts that we've had the day before. I can still relate to this at times. I used to think it's going to be over by lunchtime tomorrow. not true. I don't think anyway, not for me. And also, I used to think that if I forgave someone, then I had this feeling that somehow that they had won, you know? But what I was really scared about was that if I forgave them, then they were going to come back and they were going to do the same thing over and over again. So did I really forgive them? So you see, forgiveness is not for the other person. Who is it for? It's for ourselves. It's about us. Jerry Jampolsky in his book writes, to not forgive is a decision to suffer. I have sayings up on my kitchen cupboard, short sayings, because long sayings kind of drive me crazy sometimes. So I'm thinking, okay, that's a good one. To not forgive is a decision to suffer. We believe, or we can believe that our happiness lies where out there. It lies out there. It's in what people do. It's what people say. It's how they react to us. And then we can label it as good or bad. We're looking outside ourselves, really, to determine how we feel and to find our own happiness. Has anybody ever thought, you know, this relationship's going to make me happy. This job's going to make me happy. This car, I bought a new car. Oh, this car is going to make me happy. Oh. And perhaps the greatest one of all, I used to think fluency, I don't even have that word in my vocabulary anymore, but I used to think fluency is going to make me happy. Is there anybody else that can relate to that, or am I talking to myself? Yeah. Thank you. Here's another one of Jerry's words. Forgiveness is letting go of all hopes for a better past. That's Jerry Jampolsky. A long time ago, I read a book. I'm 86 years old, and sometimes I have to think a little bit to remember a name. Anyway, and in the book, it said that there are only two emotions, love and fear. And that really simplified it for me, because under the fear is the anger, the shame, the guilt, and everything else like that. So if I'm in a situation, then I can just say to myself, no, that's coming from love or that's coming from fear. So that's simplified. Is this coming from a place of love, or is this coming from a place of fear? And forgiveness also means that we have to give up the idea that we always have to be right. I don't know about you, but some days I just want to go there because I just want to be right about something. Why? Because it makes me feel good. And then I can blame somebody else, you know. As I say, I don't know whether this stops in our lifetime or who knows. We also need to overcome the belief that the past will inevitably repeat itself. I thought that was a good one. So how do we do that? And we do that by letting go of our guilt and letting go of our shame, one baby step at a time. For me, I had stuttered for like 55 years before I even started to look at anything else or the possibility that there was another way to live. So a big part of forgiveness for me is forgiving myself for all the things I think I should have been. I should have been a better wife. Ah, dear. Huh. I should have been a better mother at times. Yeah. So looking at the shoulds and then just realizing that I'm saying it because so many times it's just there for me and I'm back thinking about old stuff that's happened before. It becomes easier to forgive when we realize that we are no longer victims. Because why? Because we always have a choice as to what we think, what we say, and how we feel. We always have that choice. Forgiveness is a continuum process. When I was working on the forgiveness, as I went through my education, I started and I found it was easier really to forgive someone else than it was to forgive myself, because in forgiving myself, then I had a deeper, I had certainly a lot more things to look at and understand that if I was forgiving someone else. We often hide our anger. Can anybody else relate to that? Yeah, we often hide. Why? Because sometimes you've been told that it's not good to, you shouldn't be angry. Yeah, well, sometimes I am angry, but I'm not going to stay there. I'm going to be aware of it. I'm going to acknowledge that it's there. And then I'm going to take a look at it and see why it's there. But to say it's not there at all, then I don't understand from whence it came. And it shows up again. And the hidden anger becomes what makes it so difficult for us to believe, to forgive. When we start to become aware and acknowledge what we're angry about, and it's always in the past, then we have a choice. We can make the choice to change it. The key term for me in forgiving is willingness. I am willing to forgive myself and others so that I can be happy, healthy, and whole. That's going up on the cupboard where I'm living. Just as an aside, I spend 6 months in Ontario. And last Friday, not yesterday, but last Friday, I packed up all my stuff and I headed for Kansas City and I drove and I got here on Tuesday. So now I'm living in another space for 6 months and then I'll go back to Ontario. And so I'm never sure where I'm going to live when I get back to Ontario. If you've got any relations in Ontario that have rooms, please let me know. Only kidding. Only kidding. And when we forgive someone, it doesn't mean that we are agreeing with or that we are condoning their behavior. It doesn't mean that we have to let all the people out of jail. It doesn't mean that we have to spend time with someone that we don't want to work for the boss. Or you don't have to go to the marriage you left behind. That's not what forgiveness is all about. Because why? Because the forgiveness isn't for the other person, really. It's for you and I. I forgive you for laughing at me when I stutter. To me, that takes just this whole anger. If I really say this from my heart, I forgive you for whatever is in your life that you feel you want to forgive someone for. So something that we thought that we were doing for somebody else, who are we doing it for? We're really doing it for ourselves. So knowing this might make it easier to speak to the person, to have a discussion with the person that was maybe mad and angry at you, or you were mad and angry at them. Because you and I and everyone in this whole world wants to feel loved and appreciated. And this exercise will help us feel that way. So some of the things we might like to look at. And as I look at the list, I don't think this is going to be done by lunchtime tomorrow. But who knows? Number one is to forgive people who have laughed at us. Number two is forgiving family members who have not lived up to our expectations. And that means ex-wives, ex-husbands. I've got a couple. Our partners, our mothers, our fathers. It means forgiving people that we work with. Forgiving institutions. And most of all, it means forgiving ourselves. Why? Because I still believe that we are doing the best that we know how in this very moment. And as we're more aware of that, then that opens up this avenue for change. So from Jerry's book and from my stuff, here are some stepping stones to forgiveness. Be open to the possibility about changing your beliefs about forgiveness and really about anything. How many people are stuck in what they think they know to be absolutely true, but I know that's absolutely true? How many times have I said that and that's not true? And I don't know, the older you get, the more I'm able to laugh at myself. Yeah. Find no value in self-pity. Come to know that you are never a victim. When somebody's laughing at you, making fun of you, you are not the victim. Why? Because you are still in charge of how you feel. That means I can't blame you for how I feel. You make me feel, take that out of your vocabulary. And that might take more than a week or two. Let me tell you. Choose to be happy rather than right. Few nods. Choose to be happy rather than right. Give up control. You know why? Because you don't have control anyway. It's all in your fantasy. You don't have control anyway. Look at everything and everyone you meet as your teacher, even stuttering. Some of the people I've forgiven have been my greatest teachers. Because the purpose of forgiveness is not to change the other person, okay, but is to change the negative thoughts that you and I have in our minds. Why? Because it's us who suffer through this. Not them, but it's us who are suffering when we don't or when we can't forgive. I don't know. How much more time have I got there, Mr. Tom?
Just about 3 more minutes.
3 or 4 minutes? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, I could listen to you all day.
Hey. Yeah, and I paid him $100 to say that. We've been hanging around for a long time. Anyway, these words are from Jerry Jampolsky on his way to Bosnia in 1998. He was I actually saw him when I was in California. Anyway, these are his words. It is never too early to forgive. It is never too late to forgive. How long does it take to forgive? It depends on our belief system. If you believe it will never happen, it will never happen. If you believe it will take 6 months, it will take 6 months. If you believe it will take a second, then that's all it will take. I'm going to cry. I believe with all my heart that peace will come to the world when each of us takes the responsibility of forgiving everyone, including ourselves, completely. And then the last chapter, this is by the way, I'm going to do a little bit, but this is from my book, Beyond the Fear of Stuttering, My Journey to Self-Acceptance and Freedom. I wrote this. This journey is really one baby step at a time. At first, it was easier for me to forgive someone else. But no matter how long it takes, it will lead a journey back home to you. Please know that you are part of a worldwide support group that is here to support you along the way, wherever you are. And I hope to see some of you in person one of these days, somewhere along the line. And anyway, thank you for being with me today. I met a lot of you, and I hope that I meet the rest of you too somewhere. Maybe one of these days I'll get to Ireland, eh, Michael?
He has a bed for every stuttering head, I've heard him say.
What's that?
You are more than welcome in Ireland anytime,
for every
Mary.
stuttering head, he says.
And I see some person, Anita, we've spent some time together, Pamela. Anyway, I'm just so blessed and so grateful to be part of this and just to learn from each and every one of you. Every time you share, then I learn also. So I want to ask you to continue to do that. Yeah.